Good news can often get overlooked or buried by the negative in our everyday lives. So let's change that. I'm Adrianna.
And I'm Wyatt.
We're just two ordinary people without any special qualifications or anything, trying to navigate life. We invite you to join us as we share wholesome stories, news articles of hope, and ideas about how we can all make the world just a little bit brighter. We are uplifting positive stories. Welcome back to another episode of Uplifting Positive Stories. Thanks for joining us.
Hopefully this episode today will be a gift to you,
Oh my
the listener. Two on the nose.
Yeah,
It's my specialty.
Okay. Today is all about giving gifts. So the holiday season hasn't quite started yet, but it's in the horizon.
Yeah, the Halloween fans will tackle you right now if you say it is.
know.
It's
still Halloween
sacrilegious to
time.
have Christmas be celebrated before
Is
Halloween
that
for a
so?
lot of people I know.
So
I love I've been seeing the reels. The one we just saw recently was like, I like Lord of the Rings at Helm's Deep with the caption of Halloween, like, how long do you need? As much as you can give me. And it's like Carrie Underwood.
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey on the Uruk-hai
With the
battering ram, like
Christmas,
charging
trying to break down the gate.
And Halloween's trying to hold it back. Like, I've been seeing those reels more lately. That's
True.
Tangent.
Especially in the stores, I feel like the Christmas decorations come out earlier and earlier every year. But with that being said, I just had a ton of stories lately that I've been finding of people giving gifts to people that they know and just super wholesome reactions. And I was just like, I have to have an episode about this. They're just too cute and I have to share them. Especially, I find stories and I'm like, I want to tell you about this, but I want it to be a surprise for the episode. So I'm just ready to actually be able to share these.
Speaking with which, Legolas has gifted us with his bottom of the screen presents.
Oh boy.
He's gifting me his paw.
Our first Reddit story of the day comes from Best of Redditor Updates. It is titled...
Does it start negative?
No.
Okay. I think when you like give that like wording at first, because sometimes with these update stories, it starts like, wait, is this a positive show? Like,
No,
oh,
this
it
is
is.
positive.
Okay. Me
is-
being my own victim of that as well. I've brought stories that are like that.
It is titled, My Husband Doesn't Know That I Know What He's Up To. And it is from the thread Marriage Originally. The story says, my 33 female, husband, 34 male, and I had our first baby back in June of last year. My husband's aunt gifted our son a lovely, chunky, knitted blanket. The blanket is so soft, and I have made multiple comments about how I would like to find a full-sized blanket just like it, because it's so cozy, and I'm kind of jealous of my baby. Well, this past weekend, my husband snuck off to the store. He refused to tell me where he was going and why, but I later found a plastic bag with a logo of a local crafting store. That evening, DH stated that he would like to have an hour of alone time every night after our son goes to sleep. He stressed that he would not like to be disturbed, but if I needed him that I could call/text him. I agreed to this because we are both adjusting to having very little me time since the birth of our son. Last night, during his alone time, our son started crying. I checked the baby monitor and saw that he had simply lost his pacifier and was going back to sleep. However, the baby monitor also shows part of our son's room, not just the crib. In the corner of this room, I saw my husband sitting on the floor with a bunch of chunky yarn in front of him. I turned the volume up and I heard that he was watching a YouTube video on how to finger knit. This sweet man is making me a blanket. He absolutely loves surprising me, but is terrible at keeping secrets. Who does that sound like? Both of us?
Hey, wait a second.
We both are bad
You're
at that.
good at it. What are you talking about?
Am I?
Yeah.
I don't feel like I am. I feel like I want to tell you the moment I get something. All right. I just know that he is going to slip up and accidentally mention something about the blanket at some point. I plan on acting clueless so that I will be surprised when he gives it to me. I just love him so much, and I'm so delighted that he's learning a new skill so I can have a custom blanket. All right, here is the update. I'm just going to go right into it.
Oh, we're not going to talk about it first? I guess it's
all
clean
wholesome.
enough, Obviously, that's adorable.
It's very cute. So our next little update. My sweet husband broke. He kept on mentioning that he was working on a surprise for me, and I would occasionally ask what this mysterious project was, and he would get a cheeky smile and say, I can't tell you. That eventually evolved into him repeatedly telling me that keeping the surprise was really hard, and he wanted to just tell me. I kept saying, no, you've kept it a surprise for this long. You can keep going. But one day after dinner, he decided he couldn't keep it in anymore. He showed it to me. It was only about a quarter done, but it was lovely. The yarn was really soft and was my favorite color. I could tell he had taken his time because of the consistency of all the loops. Even unfinished, it was perfect. He told me that he kept moving it around to different hiding spots, but since our house is very small, it was only a matter of time before I accidentally found it.
Or a baby monitor, you fool. You fool.
He said
It's in the details.
I know. He said he had run out of yarn and asked if I wanted to pick out another color to add to it. I said
Okay.
yes, and we made a little date out of it. We grabbed lunch and then walked around the craft store before I picked out a complementary color to the one that he chose. He hasn't had much time to work on it the last few days, but he assured me it will be finished by my birthday. I will post a picture of the blanket when it is finished. For now, I am wildly impressed with how long he kept it a secret, and I'm so excited to have my first ever handmade blanket.
Man, I went on a journey of agreeing with him and disagreeing with him in terms of like the dropping of the reveal, you know? Because on one hand, I was like, first of all, I can relate that, you know, it's
both
hard to
can.
keep a
It's
secret.
hard.
The only secret I've ever successfully kept from you was my proposal plan to you. Story for another episode, perhaps. In this situation, at first, I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to show you though until it's done. Like, I'd feel too self-conscious about it only being
Yeah.
25% of the way done. But then it shifted into, you know, well, now you can be a part of the process. You can pick out which
Pick out
colors
the
you
color.
want. Maybe you got a little insecure about like, do I feel confident this is the color or the one that
She'll be
that
really
she
happy
wants,
with
you know?
it. Yeah.
So now I'm back to that side. Like, hey, maybe it was good to share it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I do the thing, you're going to find out eventually. She already knew, you fool.
Well, it's also hard
Oblivious
too
fool.
when you're in a small house like that to keep things a secret. I know that we've struggled with that. Our house is pretty small, and so trying
Yeah.
to keep things hidden is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think overall, obviously, incredibly wholesome. Most of these stories, there's not much really to comment on. They're just incredibly cute, and like I said, sometimes we just need a really just good like pick me up like happy episode that's just all just happy stories, kind of like that faith in humanity episode we had it's quite a ways back, but if you want
Yeah.
just positive, really really positive stories, that one is one of those ones, and this
Yeah.
is another one of those of giving gifts. So
Mhm. But does that make you think, though, of the times that our surprises have been foiled by...
it's so hard
Oversight,
to keep
you know?
secrets.
But this is what I mean, like, you're good at it, though, in terms of, like... I mean, obviously, we want to share the surprise with each other, but you're better at, like, maintaining a straight face, like,
Poker
if you've been
face.
called on it. Like, I remember... This is the closest safely we've come to gaslighting, but in a positive way. In a positive way, where it was... for Christmas when you got me an Xbox Series X back when they first came out, and it was like near impossible, and you had me convinced that it was not possible, which granted it was partially true.
It was really hard.
But literally, I saw the box arrive. Granted,
it
it wasn't like
Microsoft on it, and I was like, no.
yeah, it was a Microsoft box of about the right size. It didn't say Xbox on it, but I kind of figured. But tell you what, you gaslit me into really thinking that maybe it wasn't actually
something
that.
else.
Maybe it was something
Maybe it
else.
was something else.
I feel like gun to head, I still said it would have been an Xbox Series X, but you made me think there was enough doubt there.
Oh my gosh, that was so hard. I
But-
saved up a lot for that, and like it was so hard to get. I literally had to have a ton of pages on my computer browsers open that were like giving alerts to when it would drop because they were so hard to get. But he really really wanted it, so I was like, oh,
Was
I
it
gotta
Reddit or Twitter that you were on?
It was Twitter
or-
was the one that finally got me it. It was a guy like Mario something.
X now.
Or Wario something, yeah. And he would put a little like notification when there was a drop and what website. And so I literally had it on 24/7, and if it went off like a ding, like there was a notification, I'd check and try to get it. It was really hard, but I was pretty happy when it worked out.
But then, of course, it got delivered here.
Yes, at the worst time, because he'd be at work and stuff, and I was like, okay, well, I get home before he does from work, so I'll come home and I'll bring it inside and hide it. And then they dropped it off at 6 a.m. and I was like, no, because he's heard the doorbell ring, and I'm like, what is getting dropped off at like 6:30 in the morning? It was super early, and then yeah, sure enough, it was that, and I was like, gosh dang it, I was this close. But
Yeah.
you know. On to our next Reddit story. Our next Reddit story is also from Best of Redditor Updates. It was originally posted on our advice, and it is titled OOP Wants to Give a Big Gift Without Making It Weird. We had another story that was kind of similar vein to this about a kid that wanted to give another high schooler a
yeah.
pair of shoes, but didn't want to like make them feel uncomfortable. And so they were asking for advice on how to do that on one of the pages on Reddit. But this one is kind of similar, but even a greater scale. So here we go. This story says, my coworker recently lost his car. I don't know the details, probably broke down or something. He had to cancel his own wedding for his son's funeral last weekend. He's in a really bad spot. I don't think this guy is one of those make someone feel sorry in order to take advantage of them types. So I was already kind of half looking around at newer cars, waiting for a deal for a few months now, but not needing one ASAP. When I heard this guy was Ubering to and from work every day, I was like, holy crap, I'll just go ahead and pull the trigger on a new to me car and give him my old car. I have decided I'm going to do it, but I have no idea how to do it. I want to preserve his dignity, so I'm not going to make a big show of it. In fact, I really don't like the fact that our coworkers will figure it out when they see him driving my car. I don't feel like I'm doing it for self-aggrandizement. Everything just happened to line up to where I can really help this guy. I'd have donated it to NPR because I wouldn't get much in trade and don't want to hassle with selling. How should I approach this? What is the most graceful way to give this to him and refuse payment if he offers it and not let it be weird? I mean, I know I can only control my side of things, but if there are some things I can say or do that would make it easier, I'd appreciate some insight. In my mind, I was thinking of inviting him into an empty office and just being like, look, dude, I want you to have this. But then what? What if I offend him? What if he refuses to take it and continues to Uber into work? What if he gets weird afterwards? My boyfriend said I should offer to sell it to him for a super low price so it doesn't feel like charity, but I feel kind of tacky being like, hey, I know you have all this stuff going on, but if you give me $500, I'll give you my car. Nah, that won't work for me. Maybe I could offer to sell, but be super insistent that I will never ask him when he will pay me and he can get it to me whenever he wants. $5 at a time if he needs to, but really I'm not trying to make money off this. I just want to help my colleague. He's kind, warm, and hardworking, and he's dealing with a bunch of crap. A big steaming crap pile. I can't sit here knowing I can help him and just shake him down or do nothing. How do I even remotely handle this?
So first off, nice thoughtful gesture.
100%.
But secondly, and I'm sure hopefully they address it like following up to an update, that's a very complicated gift to give. Because, you have to pay taxes on that, even if you give it to them. And like some states won't even let you do that kind of a thing, like I think Minnesota, you can, for family members, I think you can sell to them for like $1 or something. Yeah. I think when I finally took ownership of my high school, the car I've been driving since high school, rest in peace car, it's gone now. I think it was sold me like $1 technically, I think. And I think that's how that worked in Minnesota. So. But in terms of non-family though, I don't know if that works that way. I don't know if you can
sure
do
they've
that
kind
same
of
thing.
thought about that.
There might still be like a gains tax thing, like
possibly
on top of that. I just know there's a lot of logistic things that, because I don't know what their financial situation is, but if their financial situation is like not great, that could actually make it worse depending on
potentially. I'm sure they've thought about this and looked into it. If they
I hope so.
I'm thinking they have, but. Yeah, and this kind of goes back to, like I said, that prior episode when we talked about the kid gifting shoes, where I completely understand where OP's coming from, where they don't want it to come off in a way that offends them or undignifies them, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so trying to find that, it's a really tricky thing with gifts. Like I said, we've already kind of talked about that topic, so I don't want to go too much into it, but I like that they're searching for ideas on how to do this from people and trying to get ideas and advice on how to go about it. And I love that they're just it genuinely seems that they just want to do this to be nice out of the kindness of their heart. Update. So I showed up right as he was walking across the lot to his truck to leave for the week. I ran up and was like, hey, how you holding up? He sighed heavily and said, I'm getting through it because I must get through it. I asked, have you come to a solution for your car problem? And he sighed again and said, yeah, the solution is that I must have one and I can't afford another. We were about 20 yards away from employee parking and could see both my cars, so I said, well, this weekend I bought that car, point at new car. And so now I would like you to have that one, point at old car. He was absolutely speechless. So I kind of started talking fast and was like, I couldn't find the title. It's in my closet somewhere, but I have all the necessary paperwork you need to bring the Iowa DOT to transfer it into your name. I'll pay for the replacement title if I can't find it, and it's overdue for an oil change, so I'll get that done this week while you're out too. I'll leave the keys on my desk so you have them if you get back after I leave on Friday. I attempt to look in his eyes, but his mask has fogged his glasses. I continue. Yeah, they only offered me $98 for the car, and I didn't think it was worth it, and I didn't really want to hassle with selling it online. Also, I don't have space at home to keep it, so I thought to myself, why not let coworker's name have it? So here we are. He has begun shaking. It is 15 degrees, so I am getting pretty cold at this point. I'm starting hopping a little. So, would you take my car, please? I ask, by way of concluding the offer and requesting some kind of feedback. Immediately, he grabbed me around the shoulders and pulled me in for a long, strong hug. He is openly weeping into my hair now. He is saying something, but my scarf is muffling his words, but I let him hang on until he decides to pull back. Finally, he removed his glasses and he looked me in the eyes and said, "You have changed my life with this gift. I cannot describe what you have given me." So, of course, I started crying and we hugged again. Then he said I must be freezing and I need to go into the office immediately, so I did. He sat out in his truck for a while before finally leaving for the week, and I feel content that he did not insist on haggling over money. Perhaps if he decides later to bring it up, I will entertain what he has to say, but for now, I am well satisfied with how this turned out. Now, I just have to find that darn title. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to each and every one of you who read this and took the time to reply. As it turns out, I was totally overthinking how this was going to go. Yeah.
Dang. It's a nice gift. Nice gesture. Glad you took it well.
Yeah. So going off that, we've kind of briefly mentioned it, but I think it's worth mentioning again with gifts. There is that fear of how are people going to respond, but we also have to imagine how would we respond in a situation like that if we were in desperate need of something and somebody were to just be like, here you go. How would you respond? And sometimes our knee-jerk reaction is to feel guilty or to be like, I don't deserve this, or I need to pay you for this, or and to feel guilt and to not feel, and to maybe feel undignified in like a situation like this and be like, oh, well, they think I need charity and like that kind of thing. But something that I've heard my mom say before, and like I was like, that's so true. Like when someone does something like this and they are truly doing it from the good of their heart and they're excited about giving you something, the best gift you can give them back is to be happy about it and to respond in a way that shows that you are grateful and you are happy about it. And in this situation, that person did that. Like they gave OP a hug. They expressed how important that was to them and how much of a life changer that was for them in that moment. And they expressed a lot of gratitude. And obviously that made OP's day because it said that OP started crying. They updated this Reddit post and shared how happy they were with how it went. They said that they were overthinking how it was going to go and they were much happier with how it ended up going in the long run. So obviously this was the best case scenario, not just for that person who got the car, but for OP as well, because that person responded in that way and didn't act awkward about it or feel embarrassed or any of those things. And maybe he did feel embarrassed, but he didn't express that and instead chose to express the gratitude and happiness he felt. And that will be forever a gift then for OP to remember that moment when they were in that parking lot and they were cold, but he went and he hugged her and was crying and was thanking her. That will forever be an ingrained moment for OP. You know, that's a huge gift in itself.
Yeah. I mean, I get the concern. We talked about before on this podcast as well about the concern about, making things feel embarrassed or awkward or bad, but that shouldn't stop you from doing a nice thing if you're able to.
Yeah.
And, it's what they say, pride before the fall, like if he really is in a rough place, are you really going to let your pride prevent you from getting something that could be life-changing for you? That you're like, oh, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get out of this? And this could get you out of this. Are you going to really be like, oh, no, I got this.
Right.
At that point, you're letting your pride take over and stuff. And, on the giver's end, if that did happen, all you can do is just be respectful of, I'm like, okay, that's your choice.
Yep.
Present it to you.
And just know that you tried.
Yeah.
You
Offers open for X amount of time if you want to.
Yep,
exactly. if they were being more acting embarrassed or not wanting to take, if they were acting like, well, I'm not charity,
Yeah.
that's one way you could respond to that if that's how.
Right.
Just be respectful, But in this case, it worked out.
Yeah, 100%. Moving on to our next couple of Reddit stories. Both these Reddit stories come from what's the most wholesome experience you've had. And the first one says, at the time, I was in a pretty dark place. I had just come out of a very long relationship and lost my dog in the process. I just felt very alone during that time. One day I heard running in the hallway of my apartment complex and the sound of something sliding under my door. It was a hand-drawn picture from one of my neighbor's children, who I learned was named Amy by the signature she put on her drawing. It's hard for me to explain what that meant or why that meant so much to me. When people ask about the drawing hanging on my fridge 2 years later, I never feel like I can really make them understand why it means so much to me. In reality, it was just a small token of kindness from a stranger when I really needed it. Next story, very similar vein. This next story says, a few years ago, I was experiencing deep depression. My life was a mess, my apartment was a mess, I was a mess. For a moment, I decided to just go to the park and sit for a while, as I was really at the end of my rope and I had zero idea on what to do. Out of nowhere, a kid, possibly about 3 or 4 years, comes and hands me 3 yellow dandelions and runs back to her mom. I don't know why, but I'll always remember that. That day, I went home and I cleaned my apartment and made it more tidy. I wouldn't say that my life miraculously changed, but I will say that that one moment of kindness that neither the kid nor the mom probably remember was one of the most memorable moments in my life. Edit. You guys realize you're making a grown-up ugly cry, right? I mean, that must be criminal. Thank you so much for your lovely comments and rewards. So a lot of people commented on that story.
Good comments. Good comments,
Yes,
sounds
positive
like.
comments. So yeah. And those 2 stories really struck me from 2 different people, but very similar. I was like, oh wow, these are very, very similar stories of some kid randomly just giving someone that gift of dandelions and then a drawing. And it's something that I think we kind of take for granted, that those little things can, even if they aren't monetary, but just putting a little effort in to give a little token of like, hey, here's something to brighten your day, that can mean so much to somebody. And I think especially as kids, we know that because, as kids, like dandelions, look, I picked you a dandelion. I can't tell you the number of times we've been at a wedding and there's been a little kid that's like run up to the bride and given them like a little daisy they found on the ground and like, here's some flowers for you. I don't know why that's happened so many times, but I've literally seen it happen hundreds of times. And it's just something that I think we kind of, as we get older, we start to like take those things for granted and stuff, just those small little gestures. And so being able to see that and how much that means to somebody, it can be anything. It can be like a handwritten note to somebody telling them how much they mean to you or that you appreciate something they did for you. Like that's a gift in itself. Just the time that you take to write that note, or, a flower or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be monetary. It can be a drawing that you make somebody. Like it can be literally anything, but any little like gift can really mean something to somebody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just a good example of that, I felt. So, yeah.
And again, took the gifts and stuff, I feel like how you respond to things is half of the positive interaction here, you could be someone who's jaded and negative and is like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Right,
and
exactly.
act like, okay, kid, go away, but to actually be open to that kind of interaction, I think is really a positive thing.
Yeah. All right, on to our news article for today. Today's news article comes from WPTV.com, and it is titled, Children Battling Cancer Get $500 Shopping Spree at the Mall at Wellington Green. So this is in South Florida. Macy's teamed up with a nonprofit called the Pediatric Oncology Support Team, which is based out of the Palm Beach County Children's Hospital. And so Macy's opened 2 hours early so that these kids could go and could shop at Macy's with $500 to spend. There were 10 kids ranging in age from 6 to 18, and one of them was interviewed. And to quote the article, she said, I don't really get to do stuff like this. I don't really get to go out because of my condition, because I can't really get sick and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of fun. And the article also kind of talked about how most families, obviously, with kids that are battling cancer don't really have disposable income. So they aren't really able to, like, have their kid buy things, toys, and stuff like that just for the heck of it. Like, that's just not a luxury they have. And so to give them this opportunity to, be able to go into a store because, I mean, they might not be able to go shopping very much because they're worried about, being immunocompromised and getting sick. So for the store to do that for them, to be able to open up early just so that they can go in there and do that. And then also to give them that $500, which is a huge amount of money for a kid. Like,
especially for a 6-year-old.
I mean, imagine as a 6-year-old having $500 to
see,
buy toys with, that'd be
as-
like the best day ever for a 6-year-old.
Yeah, as a 6-year-old, I don't know if I could spend $500. I'll be
Right?
honest. I don't know.
How many Barbies could
as
I
a,
get as a 6-year-old?
As a 16 to 18-year-old, I mean, that's one Xbox, you know?
Right, exactly.
It's a
But
little...
even still, like, how exciting that would be.
Oh, yeah, for
You
sure.
know, that's super, super awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a feel good story. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that this nonprofit was able to do that for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I mean, think about that. I mean, $500 for 10 kids, that's a lot of money. So to have that for them and just to give them that, and those, how much that would mean to those families that their kid got to have that day too, when
Yeah.
they're in the middle of a cancer battle, because that's a lot to
Yeah.
go through as a family. So yeah, just a really good feel good story to end off our episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good way to end. Good way to end.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much again for joining us for another episode. Also, if you have any fun stories, and if you actually have any Halloween stories that are wholesome that you want to share, please send them to us. We would love to share that in our Halloween episode. You can send them to us at upliftingpositivestories@gmail.com, or you can share them on our Reddit thread, Uplift Positive Stories. Either way.
Yeah. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button or leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
Including your Halloween stories. We want them.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your week.
And stay positive.